Hey guys, what's up? I hope you all are safe and doing absolutely fine. So, what is basically a mutual fund and how to invest into a mutual fund? Is it a rocket science? Absolutely not. So, guys, in today's video, I'll be giving you all explaining you all briefly, what is a mutual fund, which are the different types of mutual funds, and a few golden rules that you need to keep in mind, while investing or picking a mutual fund. And if you manage to stick till the end of the video, then I'll tell you all my top three picks for mutual fund, and as teenagers, which top three mutual funds you all should be picking. So do watch the video till the end, and let's begin the video. So what basically is a mutual fund? If you browse the internet, you'll get vague definitions and you won't be able to understand that clearly. So I've come up with an own unique example. So suppose you want to eat biryani in this quarantine situation. So what we usually do is we order it online, right? But now I have two circumstances. Either I cook it on my own or I request my mom to make the biryani for me, right? So considering the first context, I myself have to prepare my own biryani. So I have to go and get the chicken, I have to add the ingredients, cook it perfectly, and then the biryani will be prepared. In the second scenario, my mom does it for me, right? She gets the chicken, she puts the ingredients correctly, and then she cooks it for me. So mutual funds and stocks work the same way. In a mutual fund, there is a fund manager or an asset management company that does the work for you. Suppose I have 500 rupees. It collects money from various kinds of people. I'll invest 500 rupee, my friend will invest 500 rupee, and 10 other people will invest x amount of money, and that pool of money will be in the hands of the fund manager, and he with his experience will invest it into various kinds of companies or assets accordingly. So now that we have understood the meaning of what a mutual fund is, now let's understand which are the different types of mutual funds. So there are basically three types of mutual funds: equity funds, debt funds, and hybrid funds. All right. So coming up to the first type of fund, that is equity funds. So what equity funds basically are is they are long-term funds, and they are categorized into four types. That is small cap fund, mid cap fund, large cap fund, and multi cap fund. So I'll put a chart over here so as to you will be able to understand it much more clearly. All right. So the risk to reward ratio in equity type of funds is anywhere between moderate to high, and the returns is also between moderate to high. Right. So the next type of fund is debt funds. So debt funds are basically the type of funds in which you invest your money for a shorter period of time, basically less than 3 years, right? So there are different types of funds even in debt funds, like liquid funds, gilt funds, so on. So I'll put up a chart here by which you can understand, what are the different types of debt funds as well. So the third type of funds is hybrid funds, right? So the name itself suggests hybrid funds is a mixture of equity as well as debt funds. So in this type of fund, your money will be, according to a particular proportion, will be invested into equity as well as debt assets. All right. So now that we know that our money is being invested by a fund manager or an asset management company, will they do it for free? Absolutely not. They charge something what is known as an expense ratio. Earlier it was known as a management ratio, right? So the expense ratio is anywhere between 1% to 3%. So this is basically the amount that they charge to, invest into other companies, and for all the work that they are doing, basically, to manage your money. So that is known as an expense ratio. And each fund will have its own expense ratio. And it is anywhere between 1% to 3%. So now what we need to know is, basically how to select a fund, in which you're confident enough to invest your money. So let's hop into my laptop and I'll explain to you, which are the golden rules and the criteria that you need to keep in mind before investing into a mutual fund. So here are the top 5 parameters that you need to keep in mind, before picking any mutual fund. So the first one is the personal goal, all right? So the personal goal will vary from person to person. So suppose if you want to construct a house, you have to save for, let's suppose, 20 years. So that will be your goal. Or else if you're a student like me, then if you want to fund your further expenses for your studies, then that would be your own goal, right? So in this way, personal goal varies from person to person. So the second parameter you need to keep in mind is the past performance of the mutual fund from the past 10 years. So now let's log into the Grow website, and now you can see that I've logged into the Axis Bank Blue Chip Fund. So if you see,
The fund had started back in December 31st, 2012, and the NAV, that is the net asset value, that is value per asset or per unit, was rupees 12.32, right? So now, after several years, it has grown to rupees 29. So you can see it has given a return of 12.31%. So I'll take another example of the Parag Parikh long-term equity fund. So if I type here Parag Parikh long-term equity fund, here I can see that the fund had, started back in the year 2013 on 27th of May, and the NAV was rupees 10.02. Now the NAV is rupees 24.80, and you can see that the growth rate is 14.22%. So which is decent returns, right? So this is the second parameter which you need to keep in mind. So the third parameter you need to keep in mind is the companies in the portfolio of the mutual fund, right? So let me give you an example. So if I, check the portfolio of the PPLE fund, I can see that, you know, um, yeah. So the total equity sector allocation, I can see that it's rupees 1,920 crore. And you can see the top holdings here, which is the Amazon.com, in which the fund has invested 9.3% of its total assets, Alphabet, Facebook, Bajaj Holdings, the Hero Motocorp. Now you can see that all these companies, uh, have been in the top holdings of this particular fund, that is the Parag Parikh Long Term Equity Fund. So in this way, you need to check the portfolio of each and every mutual fund which you need to pick and select the fund accordingly. And you have to do your own, research of how the company is and how well it can do in the future. So in that way, you can pick any mutual fund. So the fourth important parameter you need to keep in mind is the expense ratio. So as explained previously, expense ratio is nothing but the small cut that the mutual fund manager will keep, in order to manage your money. So now if I check in Google, the expense ratio of Axis Blue Chip Fund is 0.46%. So you need to keep in mind that, if the expense ratio is less than, it's better. The fifth important parameter is the exit load. All right. So what exit load basically is that there will be certain funds in which, once you put your money, you cannot withdraw them back for a certain or stipulated amount of time. But if you do want to, withdraw back, you have to pay a certain percentage of, the total investments that you had made into that particular fund. So the exit load will, vary from fund to fund. So if I take the example of the PPLE fund, the exit load charged will be 2% if redeemed within 365 days and 1% if redeemed after 365 days.
Alright, so as promised in the video, now I'll be sharing to you all the top 3 funds which I have picked, and these 3 funds are, according to my knowledge and my market research. Alright, so I basically recommend these 3 funds for teenagers, right? Because even I'm a teenager and I would like to recommend these 3 funds to you all. So the first one is the Axis Bank Blue Chip Fund, which is a large cap fund, and the second one is the Axis Bank Small Cap Fund, which is a small cap fund basically. And the third one is the PPLTE fund, or the Parag Parikh Long Term Equity Fund, which is a multi cap fund. So these are the 3 basic mutual funds that I have personally invested into, and I recommend these to you all. So I hope this video was useful for all you people out there. And if you all have watched this video till now, then I'm pretty sure you all have liked this video. So do hit your thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Until then, stay safe, stay happy.